I was always looking outside of myself. But oftentimes I think we're so in our minds and in our heads and trying to figure it out that there's no space to let that curtain draw back and just receive. Sometimes when you feel as though you've lost everything, you've got nothing left to lose.
We are manifesting 24/7.
You know what? If you come over this way, this is a way shorter route. It's going to be so much easier. Let me show you.
Imagine if you could get the exact instructions for manifesting your dream life in your sleep. So in today's episode, you are going to hear from Louise Mary Wilson about using your sleep as the fastest and most effective way to tap into the quantum realms so that you can live into the timeline of your biggest, wildest dream and finally experience the quantum leap that you've been chasing so hard. Let's begin. Welcome to Resonance, the podcast for high performers and entrepreneurs who want to do life, work, and success differently. I am your host, Viktoria Levenberg, and I'm obsessed with efficiency, productivity, and planning in a way that harnesses your energy and your natural rhythms while keeping you in alignment and integrity. Because I have figured out that lasting success is not about the hustle. It is about being in resonance. Let's begin. All right, so Louise is one of the most amazing guests I feel so privileged to bring onto this podcast and share with you. I met Louise through our coaching community, so we are in the same kind of business coaching group, and she caught my attention the very first time we were on a group call, and she was one of the people kind of that was sharing her business examples as the exercise that we were all learning about, like messaging. And she spoke about her program, and she said things like, I help people quantum leap in their sleep. And I help people connect with their higher self so that they can step into their biggest, wildest timeline. And I help people clear the ancestral karmic blocks and vows of poverty and past life ties that are holding them back from living into the life of their biggest, wildest dreams. And I was like, all right, take my money. Seriously, I have been intrigued ever since I heard about what Louise does. And so if you have ever felt like you've been just trying so hard, working so hard, doing all the right things, and yet somehow you're still not getting the results that you want, it's probably beyond the 3D. Doing and working and pushing harder is not what's going to get you there. What you need is to tap into the 5D realms, exactly what Louise teaches, and clear whatever unseen hidden blocks, ancestral karma, and past life issues standing in your way. So by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to do that. You will know how to leverage your dream time to tap into the quantum field so that you can achieve your biggest, wildest goals and finally live your dream life. Without further ado, introducing Louise Wilson. Again, welcome, Louise. Thank you so much for joining me on Resonance. And it's the first time that we're really speaking one-to-one, but we've been in each other's field for a little bit. And I'm just so excited to learn more about you and hear your story and for you to bring your work out to our listeners, because there's so much mystery that I am just so excited to dive into. So why don't you begin by introducing yourself? Just tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and what brought you here today.
Sure. So I'm Louise Wilson, and I am a quantum manifestation coach. And I've been working in the quantum realms probably for 25 years now. It was 25 years ago that I actually really discovered the power of tapping into the dream time and working with sleep and with your higher self. And for the past 15 years, I've been working with entrepreneurs, but more coaches and healers, really supporting them to connect and work with their higher self, their intuition, their ancestors, their guides, and the quantum realms to create a life really that's truly in alignment with their soul's calling and a life that they love. And I think the beauty and the power of this work is that as you tap in to that higher calling, that higher self, life becomes so much easier because you can feel the support, you can feel the guidance. You're no longer alone. And I think oftentimes, myself included, and with my clients, when we have these really, really big goals in our life, we can hit those points where we think it's absolutely possible. And then there's other times when it's like, I'm crazy. Who am I to think that I can do this? This is nuts. It makes no logical sense that I could go from here and experience a quantum leap. And what I share with my clients is that vision, that calling, it's not a pipe dream. It's actually your quantum self tapping you on the shoulder, another timeline tapping you on the shoulder saying, come over here. I can guide you. Let me show you how to achieve this. And one of the fastest, most powerful ways to connect is while you're sleeping. And that's really the crux of the work that I share with my clients.
Wow. I mean, there's nothing more powerful than this. And what came to me as you were sharing what you do with your clients and what you've been doing for decades here is that what most people don't realize is that we are manifesting 24/7. The truth is that just most people don't tap into, as you say, some of those realms and guides that we're never necessarily taught. Like, you're not taught in school how to clear your ancestral blocks and any of that stuff. So I look forward to getting into that, because I think there's a lot of really practical tools that you have to deliver. And yet, as you say, that shoulder tap, like that dream, it's there, and we're all here having this human experience, and sometimes our success feels really inevitable, as our coach says. And we need that reminder that it's inevitable. And so before we dive in, I also have this question that I love to ask guests that are experts and come on the show, which is, what's the one thing that doesn't show up on your official bio? So people wouldn't necessarily know this about Louise unless they listen to this episode.
Okay, I love this. That I own with my husband marine construction contracting companies. So we have 2 tugboats, and people don't know that 25 years ago, when I first moved to Canada, I sold my house in England, the UK, and bought a tugboat. And it was that nudge of intuition. And I know my husband was like, oh my goodness, there was doubt in there, but something in me knew, yeah, we need to do this. And that one decision 27 years ago now, actually brought us up here to the Central Coast. We established a very successful marine contracting company. And yeah, I've done log salvage, I've worked tugboat. So yeah, that's one of the businesses that I've had.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And like you mentioned earlier before we hit record, that you also used to own a retail store, and like there's so many little parts of you, and almost like you said, these mini lifetimes that you've got to experience in this lifetime. Would you be open to sharing a little bit of that, and kind of how, when connecting with the quantum realm really started to open up for you on that journey as well?
Well, I think when it first opened up for me, I would go back to the age of maybe 16, 17, when I actually saw a vision of myself, and I was running a very successful global company. And that vision drove me. I went to university, and I just never let go of that I was going to have this wildly successful business. But what happened for me was, I'm dyslexic. So in the education system, I struggled. And when I emerged, it was like, I emerged with the belief that I was stupid, and stupid people don't run successful global businesses. And so, as we know, it's the events and experiences of our lives that really shape us. They shape our beliefs, they shape our identity. And so probably in my early 20s, I no longer had that belief, self-belief, that I could do that. And so I settled. I just took jobs that I knew I could get. And I really felt that sense of, well, this is it. This is my lot. I can't change it. And the next time that I feel that the portal opened and the quantum realm sort of spoke to me, or they're always speaking to us, but I heard it,
Mm.
was then in my 30s when I moved to Amsterdam.
Oh.
And yeah, so I was in Amsterdam
Uh-huh.
with my first husband, and within 3 months we separated. And I think from 21 to 33,
Mm-hmm.
I really was very fearful, never took any risks in my life. And now I'm in Amsterdam. And I think sometimes when you feel as though you've lost everything, you've got
Mm.
nothing left to lose. And at
Yeah.
that point, I was like, I'm going to go for it. And that was really when my spiritual journey began, and when I really sought to tap into those quantum realms to connect with that higher guidance. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Wow. And I mean, speak of listening to those shoulder taps and as you say, them always being there, yet potentially us hearing them or not. And I think we all go through that little phase in life where, especially in our younger formative years, we're just like such a sponge and so open to it. And then there comes the conditioning and the naysayers and the societal, cultural. I mean, I can't even imagine what it must have been like being dyslexic in this modern education system that's just unfortunately not catering to just different needs. It doesn't mean anything about you as a person. It's just it's like, do you like oranges or apples? You're not gonna shove oranges down someone's throat who's allergic to them. Like, yeah. So I'm just so thrilled that you came through the other side and kind of decided to then take that leap, because here we are today. And what, like, I think when you speak about quantum realms and kind of tapping in and opening, listening to what's beneath the 3D, what did that look like for you in the early explorative stages? Because I think we might have some people listening who might also be starting to receive those shoulder taps and the nudges and the whispers, but not quite be able to understand that versus their monkey mind, kind of the small ego version of themselves.
Well, for me, I guess my spiritual journey really started it would have been around 1996, so
Mm,
30 years ago. And it was in Amsterdam. It was in that
mm,
place where I felt I'd lost everything. And that was when I had to really figure things out. And so you would have found me at weekends, maybe crying my eyes out, but then in the self-help, libraries and department stores, just devouring everything that I could, really,
yeah.
to learn more about how to connect. And I think that probably one of the mistakes that I made back
Mm,
then was I was always looking outside of myself.
mm,
And I didn't actually realize that the answers are actually inside of us. And it's so much easier to connect than we realize. I think I was thinking I could travel the world, and I was going to workshops and trainings and this and that, when truly you can connect so easily through sleep, and
yeah.
also through I think the more that it's really a muscle, though. It's like the more you connect, for example, as an example, in the dream time, and you receive guidance through your dreams, which is what I teach to my clients in
Mm-hmm.
my Quantum Leap in Your Sleep program, is that it's a muscle. And
Mm-hmm.
so as you start to receive those taps and nudges or insights, it could just be an idea to go to the supermarket
Mm-hmm.
and you see your PJs that you absolutely love 50% off. That was just an intuition to go there. And I think it's just paying attention to that. And I
It's
think the
a
more that you can just simply pay attention,
mm,
when a phone call happens or you want something and then somebody says XYZ, it's just noticing these things that are happening in your life that actually are part of a bigger plan.
mm,
But oftentimes I think we're so in our minds and in our heads and trying to figure it out that there's no space to
mm-hmm.
let that curtain draw back and just receive.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that
Yeah.
answered the question or if that gave light to it, but it's really just listening and then taking action on those nudges of intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you take action, the more you'll see the doors of possibility open, and you'll know, okay, maybe that didn't work out, but maybe it opened, that you can never know, really. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And it also might not make sense until much, much further down the line as well. I don't know if this has been your experience, but in my experience, sometimes it's like, oh, like you listen, you hear it, you listen, you take the action, and then you're like, cool, now what? And it doesn't actually make sense until maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the line when you look back and you're
Yes.
like, oh, that seemingly tiny decision I took and the ripple
Yes.
effect that had in, as you said, the bigger plan.
Yes, totally. The bigger picture of things. And, I think it's getting comfortable with not having the answers and not having it figured out. I think for me, if going back to that period in my life in Amsterdam, it was really, really challenging because, I loved my first husband, but we had challenges in the relationship. And I just didn't know. One thing I knew for sure, that I could live this life with him, but there was another part of me that knew that there was this other life, this other, it's like a crossroads, right? And sometimes it was me being okay with closing one door and being open to, I didn't know for sure what this other life looked like, but something deep within me was telling me to take that leap. And it was really hard because in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wished I could have 2 lifetimes, because I know I could have this one lifetime and I know there's this other one, but I don't know what it is, and it's very hard sometimes to take that leap of faith. But I truly believe that the more that we are dialed in and connected with our higher self, our soul, our guides, when we feel their support and that connection, it makes it so much easier to take those leaps of faith, because we know that, that they've got our back and that all will be well.
Yeah, and that we're not on our own, and we're supported. And even if we can't see or feel it in the moment, it's always there, even if it's imperceivable to the naked human eye. Yeah.
Yes.
And so for someone who's like a complete novice into the world of the 4 and 5D, would you be able to like give us explain it to a 5-year-old definition of what you mean when you say you help people bridge the gap between the 3D and the 5D and also working in the 4D? Like, I know some people might just be like, wait, is it like, are we talking about printers here or what's going on?
Yeah, so the 3D, that's very much our physical reality, the here and now. And I see 3D as its action, the lists, the to-do lists, time. You just, taking that action and doing stuff. The 4D, that is more in the realms of the subconscious mind. So working at a deep subconscious level to really understand more of who you are. Because we aren't just this 3D being, we are an infinite being. So through that subconscious portal doorway, we can tap into the timeline. We can go back in time to look at the programming of, the life that we are currently living, the experiences, the events, all of those things that have shaped and are shaping who we are. As an example, me, the education system and that experience, it shaped me for the first 3 decades of my life, where I lost that sense of self and the vision and the dreams. I think oftentimes as kids, we have these big dreams because children, we've just come out of the 5D, and we're coming into the 3D. So we have big visions, we have big dreams, because that's where we've come from. And through programming in this 3D reality, events, experiences, all of the things, we can lose connection to that because, maybe we've been told no, or maybe we were told we're stupid. Like, nobody ever told me that, but you felt that because you just kept failing. So, but that's what shapes us in this 3D reality. 4D is really having an opportunity to dive deeper, to understand, okay, what are these programs that are driving my behavior, that have shaped who I think I am versus who I truly am? And in that 4D realm, we can actually work at that subconscious level to uncover the patterns and the beliefs, but also to release them and let them go.
Yeah.
And those patterns can be in this lifetime, but they also could be passed on to us, well, in our mother's womb. You know, we're receiving the imprints of our mom while we're in the womb. So even before we're born, who we are is being shaped. Our nervous system is being shaped. It's called prenatal programming. And then when we go even further back, we have the programming of our ancestors, which is passed to us through epigenetic imprints. So when our ancestors experience challenging situations in their lives, their bodies would have made a physiological change to adapt to that situation. So if they're in a war-torn environment, it would be like hypervigilance, as an example. And then that gets passed through the line to, well, it happened to me in my lineage, to keep me safe, to prepare me so that I could deal with, you know, situations where I needed to be hypervigilant. And so the subconscious allows us to open those doorways to really understand the patterns and programs that have shaped who we are, and then a powerful opportunity to clear them.
Yeah.
So that's the fourth dimensional.
Yeah.
And then fifth dimensional is really quantum. It's who we are. It's who we've come from. And it's being able to connect with those higher states of consciousness, your soul, your ancestors, your guides, and really to really get the full body and picture of who you truly are. And to work, you know, in the dream time, especially. I love working in the dream time, but also my soul journey is a very, very powerful way to connect at that higher frequency. But in quantum, you know, you can tap into the timeline. There's multiple versions, multiple realities. So it's being able to choose a timeline, connect with it, and then receive the messages and guidance to achieve it. Yeah. I don't know if you have any questions.
I mean, it's all making sense for me. I'm sure maybe someone listening might be kind of breaking their head a little bit, but like if I were to reflect what you've just shared and summarize it in a nutshell, it's sort of the 3D is the here and now. I like to joke, it's like this muggle reality. You know, if we think of like Harry Potter, this is the us, like just normal humans. Here's the flesh and bones, what we're experiencing. And then the 4D, it's even if we take that iceberg analogy of I think it's Freud, right? It's sort of then start to go beneath the surface and understand the thoughts, the beliefs, the patterning, the conditioning that shaped who you became, both from society, experience, and ancestral ties, as you said, because that is being passed through. I don't know if you know this as well, but the egg that you came from was already present in your grandmother's womb when she was pregnant with your mother. So it's like there's a direct tie, not just of you being in your mother's womb, but even like if your grandmother went through something while she was pregnant, that'll be imprinted as well, which is like just blows my mind. And it's just so cool, and also like very humbling at the same time. And then the 5D being like the limitless possibilities that I think our, unfortunately, human brain that's been conditioned to feel limited doesn't believe sometimes. And so if you had like someone listening right now and feel like quite a bit of a skeptic or unsure about the particularly the 5D, like what would you say to them at the moment? I'm just hypothesizing in case someone listening here is
totally because I would say I hear you and I understand why you would feel skeptical that there is this 5D reality and multiple versions of reality, but quantum physics actually proves this. And it really proves what ancient spiritual texts and cultures have been saying all along, that we actually exist in a vibrational universe. And so Einstein, he talks about, everything's vibration, everything's frequency, and match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that. And then you have David Bohm, who was also a peer of Einstein. And in his work, in really trying to understand the quantum, he also talked about there being this field of infinite potential, but he talked about the universe being holographic in nature. So there's multiple possibilities, probabilities of reality that exist in this quantum field, this infinite field of infinite potential. And so, as Einstein referenced, match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. And that it's not, woo, it's physics. So what's actually happening is that in Dreamtime, which is where I work with my clients, you can actually program yourself to connect with a version of you, because there's multiple possibilities, multiple probabilities for you in your life. And perhaps you have a big vision in your life. So that vision that's tapping you on your shoulder, it's the power of connecting with that version of you to receive from them, because they already exist vibrationally, they're crushing those goals, to receive the ideas.
That's it. Slay queen. She's already got the globally successful company. Let's go.
Totally. Yes. So it's being able to tune in and tap into that version of you. And so what I'm sharing, just to really ground it back into quantum physics, that, this is science-based, but ancient spiritual texts have been talking about this for thousands of years. That, there's more to reality than what we think.
And it goes, you can, whatever text you read, it's one of my mentors says it's sort of, we're all looking at the same disco ball from a different angle. It all points back to that same inherent truth, and it's undeniable in a way. And I think that I often welcome anyone, whether they're listening right now and feeling a little bit of resistance, to just notice the resistance and just let the resistance be there, because that's information. And often that resistance is probably our 3D ego monkey mind self that is a little bit frazzled in the nervous system right now. And of course, whenever we're in a dysregulated nervous system state and we don't feel ready to receive new unfamiliar information, that feels like a threat because it's something you haven't experienced before. So I don't know why that kind of came through, but it just felt relevant for anyone listening in case they're like, okay, what if? So hopefully we've managed to tap that in.
Totally. And I get it. For me, for the first 3 decades of my life, none of this, it wouldn't have made any sense to me. I actually remember I used to do public speaking, and I would have this massage therapist. She'd come and she'd give me a massage like the day before. And she actually said to me, after the massage, she said, you need to feed your soul. And I'm like, feed my soul? Like, what? Like, I couldn't, and I would joke to my friends, I had the massage and she says I have to feed my soul. And it, it didn't make any sense to me until I set on this my own spiritual journey. And I think it, when the time's right, you'll hear it differently, see it differently, when all in good time and when you're ready. And I totally understand and appreciate any sort of skepticism about it.
Thank you for naming that. 100%. And so you've mentioned that you specifically work in the dream time, and because you found that the fastest, the most effective way to connect with the higher realms. So can you tell me more about like what that process looks like? What do you do with your students or with your clients?
So I want to share before I dive in and just share a little story, if I may, because
Please. I love a
it
good story.
was, yeah, so it was October 1998, that's it.
Mhm.
And I'd just come back from a holiday in the wilds of Canada, and
Mhm.
I'd met and fallen in love with somebody, with my husband, now husband, Rob. I'd known him a couple of weeks. And I'd also, because I was fearless and doing all of the things, landed a very wonderful job at Greenpeace International. So I was their finance manager. Anyway, this one morning I woke up and it was in that in-between state. Like you're just coming out of the dream time and you're just coming into the 3D, and there's just these beautiful moments where you're really open. And
Mhm.
I heard a voice say to me, Louise, you need to quit your job and move to Canada. And I'm like, okay. And I did it. And I
Mhm.
didn't, it's so interesting. It was just, something very deep within me knew that this was a message from my higher self, that it was something
Mhm.
that I needed to do, and I did it. And I didn't have it figured out. I didn't know what it would look like, but it was the best decision of my life. And that really was, 28 years ago, the moment when I realized the power of working with sleep. And so the processes that I share with my clients is really setting yourself up before you go to sleep
Mhm.
to be
Mhm.
able to tune into and raise your frequency and tap into that timeline that you want to manifest.
Mhm.
I didn't do that. I was very lucky. It was like this just came to me, but it's like that doesn't always happen. But once you know how to tune in and
Mhm.
tap in, and I use my soul journeys to do that, then you're going into drifting off into sleep, ready to receive.
Mhm.
And the power of this too is that you're spending 4 to 6 to 8 hours in that frequency, right?
Mhm.
I like to see it as a playground of infinite potential, and just you have an opportunity to merge with that timeline, be in that frequency and receive. And the messages
Mhm.
come through your dreams. So your dreams are really powerful little chapters in a book. When you wake up in the morning, there'll be these dreams that you've had, and there's messages within them.
Mhm.
And so it's about interpreting now, being able to interpret the messages that are
Mhm.
encoded
Mhm.
within your dreams that your higher timeline, your higher self is sharing with you.
And that's like a whole separate rabbit hole that we could totally dive into. But is that something that you help your clients with as well, as like interpreting
Yes.
what actually, because I think it's one thing to be like, okay, I'm ready for this. Another thing to then prepare yourself, another thing to get the skills to tap in, but then a whole
Yes,
different thing to understand what to do with that information and how to decode it. So do you work with that as well?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. And here's the thing, your soul always speaks to you. I use soul, higher self,
Yeah.
higher self, soul, but speaks to you in language that only you understand. I mean, many
Mm-hmm.
people, when they have a dream, if they have a dream about a deer or I don't know, an eagle, or they'll rush to Google and be like, oh, what does what does a owl mean? But
Mm-hmm.
actually, the imagery is the
I've done
language of
that.
your soul.
Busted.
You'll receive something from that.
If you're enjoying this episode, you will love my free newsletter, Flourish Weekly. It is an email that you actually want to read, and you will be the first to hear about new offerings, events, and upcoming episodes of Resonance. The link will be in the show notes below, and you can also sign up through my website, victorialevenberg.com, or by heading to the link in my bio on Instagram at Viktoria Levenberg. Now, let's get back to the episode.
But the
Mhm.
power really is in that it's the language of how your soul speaks to you, because imagery, you see signs, synchronicities, it's all image based. So
Mhm.
imagery is the language of your soul. So I can, share an example with you, just to give listeners insights into just how powerfully our soul is speaking to us. So I had an experience where I was launching, and I was trying to decide. I'd set a date, but I realized I needed to bring the dates, make it earlier. And I was unclear, should I do this? Should I do this? So I set myself up with the protocol that I use, went into the dream time. And actually, the dream that I had was of me holding a baby. Now, I full disclosure, I don't have biological children, so I've never had a baby, but I've always had this belief that it would be extremely difficult, extremely hard, which I know that it can be. In this dream, what holding the baby was showing me, I was nursing the baby, and I was like, oh, it's so easy, this is easy. And the reason why my soul shared that with me is because it knew I had this resistance around the challenges of having biological children, and it was telling me this decision is easy. If I choose to go earlier and make my launch earlier, it's going to be fine. It's going to be easy. So it was a very powerful image for me, because I instantly understood the message based upon that. And so your soul knows the totality of who you are, and it will share with you imagery that once you know how to dig deeper, you'll start to really understand, okay, this is what I'm being told. And it's possible for you then to actually create your very own soul dream dictionary. So you create your dictionary of meanings, and then you can start to, your soul can it becomes even easier, right? Because you've got that reference, you've got your own dream dictionary, if you will, of being able to
so cool. Like I'm such a nerd, and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like the coolest thing ever. And I love that you shared this example as well, because a lot of what's coming through in this conversation and in the work that you're doing is that it's about allowing ourselves to just receive and allowing for it to be easy. And in a world where we've been conditioned into and get glorified for things being hard and efforting and trying harder, especially like I'm listening, like my high achievers out there, who is a lot of my audience, is like type A, I must work harder, do more, push better, etc. It's a really foreign concept to let go and still let things be easy and occur and achieve your big goals, which I'm so grateful that you shared that example, because that's the epitome of quantum leaps, really. It's pray and move your feet, like you got to take action, but it doesn't come necessarily through efforting.
Yes, and I know, and that's been my own personal experience, because I think as a child, my mother was the one that diagnosed my dyslexia. And she said to me at the age of 5, when my subconscious mind was wide open sponge to receive, Louise, you are going to have to work really, 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 really hard to get what you want in life. And if you see like somebody in the class that's like the top of the class, like work really hard to, do better than them, or what. And I totally, it was from a place of love that she was sharing that with me, because she was really worried that I would maybe give up, or but it's taken me a long time to unlearn that belief that I have to hustle, I have to work hard. And we're always a work in progress, but what I've learned is that the more that I can let go and trust that nudge and voice of intuition, I receive things that make no sense, but when I act on them, the momentum is magical. So it's like, it's hard to let go of those reins, and the little
Mm-hmm.
whip, keep going, but
Mm-hmm.
I think trust it. I think out of all of this, it's trust. I think that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to trust ourselves to be able to do stuff in less time, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to trust that we have this higher guidance that we can tap into, that's actually saying, you know what, if you come over this way, this is
Mm-hmm.
a way shorter route, it's going to be so much easier, let me show you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just stop this
Mm.
nonsense.
Yeah, I love everything about what you're sharing here, and I think that a lot of our listeners as well will really be like, oh, that sounds amazing. Are you telling me that, I feel like between the two of us, we kind of blend perfectly, the 3D and the 4D and the 5D, sort of you helping bridge the gap, and then I help people kind of tangibilize it into reality and build the plan and execute on all these things, because again, the monkey mind will make up excuses and procrastination is a real thing. And it is so, so powerful that you have been able to take the conditioning from that you received from such a young age of you're going to have to work really, 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 really hard. And like, I can only imagine little Louise and what she made that mean and how that shaped the first 3 decades of your life. And then
Mhm.
would you be able, because I know this is like such a hot topic, this is going to resonate with a lot of our listeners. Would you be able to share like what the dismantling of this belief looked like in your life and how you went about that?
It was really about, there's lots of levels to this, but for me, it was about doing that deep 4D subconscious work,
Mm-hmm.
really being able to, I see it as an onion really, because there's all these, the layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of conditioning that are upon us that's not
Mm-hmm.
even ours. It's about, I had to, and I continue to, because with every new level, there's always a new devil, new frequency to reach for. There's always stuff to clear. But I really had to do that deep inner work and
Mm-hmm.
continue to do the deep inner work to really understand, you know, where the resistance is and what the program pattern root of that resistance is.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then to do the deeper clearing,
Mm.
working, also calling in my guides, my ancestors with the work that I do. I do soul journeys. I listen to my old soul journeys. So it's being able to work and feel that powerful support and guidance
Mm.
to really go back through time to find the root. If I'm experiencing a channel in this 3D reality, if I'm feeling a rub of resistance,
Mm-hmm.
there's something to trace. There's a route for me to go back to and clear.
Mm-hmm.
So, as an example, I always reach for big goals and I always encourage my clients to do that
Mm.
because that is where we meet our rub. We meet the
Mm.
resistance, we'll meet the
Mm.
wall. And so, in going after that big goal, there'll be a part of us at some point down the line that'll be like, who am I to do this? Or you'll feel this procrastination or overwhelm or
All of the
whatever it
above.
is. Yes, so that's just it's wonderful because it's a sign. It's like a spotlight. Okay, there's something for me to clear. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's my, process now is, okay, if I feel a rub, okay, what do I need to clear?
Mm.
What what's the root of this?
And what
And
does the clearing look like for you? Like when you say
for me,
clear, I can imagine someone being like, what do you mean by that?
so it's essentially, for me, it's, I work with soul journeys. So it's
Mm.
actually being able to move from the 4D into sort of more 5D, like that higher level of consciousness,
Mm.
to be able to look down on my life
Mm-hmm.
and to actually track it. So if you see like a lot of people, perhaps you do too, like work with timeline therapy. So it's,
Mm.
being able to look down at the timeline and for this particular challenge I'm experiencing, go back through time to see where did it start?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that
Mm-hmm.
belief live? And
Mm-hmm.
then to go back to that, to I think seeing is the first step. We only can heal the things we can see.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've now brought that up into conscious awareness, that's powerful in and of itself. And then the next step is to do that work, to just clear it, to let it go.
Yeah. Wow. It's I'm grinning because I know the power and the potency and the ripple effect of the work that you have to share with the world, just by pure nature of, again, this is where I think you and I are so on the same wavelength, and delivering our missions in slightly different ways, but effectively helping people achieve their biggest goals in a way where they still get to be in alignment with what they came here for, have the life of their dreams, and enjoy it while they're at it. And that is, I keep coming back to this vision for the world of, imagine if everyone taps in to their highest self, to their highest potential, and that is the path they walk. The world that we will create, that we will co-create, all of us, you, me, anyone listening, every single human being and any other being on this planet. I mean, it's heaven on earth. That's what we're really here for.
It's so powerful. And I think
Yeah.
that particularly now in this time that we're in, I think there's a lot of fear in the world, and there's a lot of fear and worry. And I think once we can really truly understand how the universe works, how energy works, how we are part of this bigger reality, and the true power that we actually have and hold, that we have access to, and that's available to us to truly create any version of reality that we want. I think that fear or belief that other people are taking from me, or I can't have X or Y, when you know truly your true power, I think that it's that for me is the most important.
Yeah.
Knowing what you can truly achieve
Yeah.
in your lifetime once you tap into and are connected with that infinite
Yeah.
potential.
That's it. And that power comes with great responsibility. It's almost,
Mhm.
being a steward of it, and realizing that in a way it's your duty to clear whatever ish is standing in the way of you stepping into that potential, because through delivering on your purpose, you then unlock the doors for others to find and deliver on theirs as well. Right? Like
Totally.
if
Yeah.
you hadn't had those whispers and nudges, and if you hadn't listened to them, we wouldn't be sitting here. Who knows the ripple effect that will have? Who will hear something? Who will work with you? And then, who knows? I genuinely, again, it's just so humbling to see this grand big picture of things. And to a question I really wanted to ask you, that's actually been like brewing in the back of my mind ever since January, when we were on our $1 million messaging call with Papa James. And you spoke about one of the things that you help your clients clear being ancestral vows of poverty. Can you
Mhm.
tell me more about that? I was like, whoa, tell us.
Totally. The experiences of our ancestors are actually encoded within us, within our cells and within our biology. And this is, if our ancestors, I talked about being in a war-torn environment, but say, for example, your lineage was in the Great Depression and they lost everything, or they were in a famine where they really had to hold on to things. All of that programming, it becomes encoded within us, as I said before, through epigenetic mechanisms. So there's science that actually shows how these epigenetic imprints, epi is above the gene, so the genes sort of up and down regulate. So their experiences are encoded within them, and then they become encoded within us. It's passed through the lineage. And so this is powerful for so many reasons, and so important to know for so many reasons, because it's imprinted within us at a cellular level. And what we also know is there was a Russian physicist, Vladimir Popinon. He was so interested in, our relationship with quanta, the quantum field, and our relationship with that. And he wanted to understand the relationship between human DNA and the quantum stuff our world is made of.
Ooh.
And I'm going off on a tangent here, but it really kind of reinforces really the importance of doing this powerful clearing at an ancestral level. Yeah. Because in this experiment, he actually put photons, particles of light, the quantum stuff our world is made of, into a test tube. And what they did was expected. They just organized themselves super randomly. However, once he introduced human DNA into that test tube, what actually happened was that the quanta organized itself to match perfectly the human DNA. So what this tells us is that our DNA, our cells, are what is communicating with the quantum field. And so, if you have a disempowering pattern at an ancestral level, at a cellular level, that's been passed to you, it's not yours, you didn't ask for it, it just has been passed through the lineage, then that is what is communicating with the quantum field. So what this tells us is that, no matter what you do, no amount of hard work, hustle can override a pattern that is imprinted within your cells. And that's why it is so important to do this ancestral clearing, to clear those vows of poverty, the fear, the scarcity, all of that, to clear it at a cellular level. Because our cells are speaking 24/7 with the universe. Yeah. And so for anybody listening, if you're kind of like, I don't get it, I don't get why I've been working my butt off, working so hard, and I just can't get there, then very likely at there's something at a cellular level, there's a pattern, program, and belief that is sending a counter signal. And the good news is, in the same way that those genes were down regulated by your ancestors, you can upregulate it, you can change it. So you're not stuck with it. And this is really why this work is so important.
And you help your clients do that as well.
Yes, exactly. It's working at a present, I work with my clients at a present life, past life, and ancestral level. So, it is so important in the work that I do, is connecting with that quantum vision, the version of you that's tapping you on the shoulder saying, come over here, let me guide you, let me show you. And it's totally possible to do that, totally possible to receive the message. But the challenge is you cannot create a 5D vision from a 3D operating system. So where at a cellular level, physically, you're sending a completely different counter signal to the quantum field. And so that's why it's so important to do that deep clearing at a present life, past life, and ancestral level, which is the work that I share with my clients in Quantum Leap in Your Sleep.
How do we sign up? I mean, it's a natural question. And also I'm like, I'm in. No jokes. I mean, to be honest, you've been on my list for a little while now. Anyway, I've heard your magic. And I would love for you to share as well. Like if someone listening right now is like, okay, I understand the importance of this work. I need this. How can they find you? How can they work with you?
So you can go to my website at www.louise-wilson.com. And there on the website, you'll see all of the different ways that you can work with me. And I do have a priority list for Quantum Leap in Your Sleep.
Mhm.
So, the doors only open a few times a year. So it would be important to get yourself registered on the priority list, because the beauty of this is that the moment I open the doors, you'll be the first to know. And I always love to reward people on the priority list for being okay with waiting. So we have juicy bonuses for people that are on the priority list. And then in addition to that, you can find me on Instagram at The Infinite Entrepreneur. So you
Mhm.
can find the priority list for Quantum Leap in Your Sleep there. And also on YouTube at The Infinite Entrepreneur. So
Amazing. We'll make sure to link that all up in the show notes as well, so that anyone listening right now can get their booty on that priority list. I'll be the first to put my hand up that I am already on the priority list. I'm really excited for your webinar, which I love the name of, by the way. Was it
Pillow to Prosperity.
Pillow to Prosperity? That's it. So, the signature question that I love to ask guests, that come onto the show, and I'm really curious to hear your response to this, is, out of everything that you've shared, which is like such a plethora of value, by the way, I'm so incredibly grateful to you for that. If there was one thing that resonated with the listener long after this episode ends, what do you wish that one thing would be?
I love it. I think the thing that comes to mind is just how powerful you are.
Mm.
The takeaway of really knowing and understanding that you are incredibly powerful, you are infinite potential, and to know that that vision, that dream, maybe it's a super big ass goal that you have, know that it's not a pipe dream. It's absolutely possible, and it's that vibrational version of you in the quantum field. It's already crushing those goals.
That's
That's
it.
tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "Come over here. Let me guide you. Let me show you how to achieve this, because
Mm,
it's possible."
mm. I love that so much. And it is a beautiful place to end this episode as well. I'm so incredibly grateful to you, Louise, for coming onto the show, for sharing your wisdom. I will be honest, this is the first episode where I have 3 pages of notes ever. Like, I always have, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I always process information in that way, but never, ever have I ever so far, and we've been rolling the show for almost a year now, had 3 pages. So,
Oh wow.
so
Oh,
just
I
thought
love
I'd let you
that.
know.
Well, I really enjoyed your questions, and I think that, thank you so much, because just the questions that you asked were wonderful, and
Mm.
yeah, I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to be here and to share this with you and with your listeners, and just to know, never ever 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 give up on the dream.
That's it. That's it. Preach. Preach it to the choir right here. Wow. Thank you, Louise. There's so much value in what you've shared. And honestly, anyone listening still to the episodes, like, get your name on that priority list. Clearly, you have such a gift, and you have something that it's so different. And it's the way forward. It is on, I honestly, like, any entrepreneur, anyone who I've spoken to or seen achieve amazing things in their life and achieve that big vision, did not get there without exactly what you're offering. So if Louise is your gal, make sure you reach out to her. I know she's mine. Hello. I loved this episode so much. No kidding. I cannot wait to sign up and join Quantum Leap in Your Sleep, because I resonate with a lot of what Louise shared there, and probably, like some of you listening, have a lot of ancestral stuff to clear. And as she said, the work, there's always more to clear when we think about frequency and vibration. And that's actually one of the things that she said, quoting Einstein and some of the people in that field, is that we match the level of vibration and frequency that we emit. And I couldn't agree with that more. And the thing is that when you actually tap in and connect with what you're meant to be doing, when you're serving from the place of overflow and alignment with who you truly are, life just gets easier. And there's so much crossover between what Louise shares and like the themes and the amazing tools, systems, and strategies that I teach inside Efficiency Made Easy. Like, it was just so cool to hear the similarities in languaging and worldview between the two of us. And it's almost like I said in the episode, it's sort of, I help people with the tangible 3D stuff and start to shift some of the 4D, and then she takes it to the next level within the 5D. And the thing is, you need both. You need structure and flow. You need 3D, 4D, and 5D. And I just really love the easiness of it, of how when it comes to quantum leap in your sleep, this is where you get to just trust and receive versus thinking that you just got to try harder and effort harder, which is often, as achievers like myself included, are like our default. And it doesn't have to be that way, because that is the playground of your infinite potential. Again, such a beautiful phrase that Louise used. And, you know, my parting words to you just from this episode, I mean, I don't think much more needs to be said, because just goosebumps through and through. But what really resonated with me, and again, it's one of those things that Louise used some language that we use in the Efficiency Made Easy world as well, about your operating system. And when she said, you cannot create a 5D vision from a 3D operating system, meaning you, in this instance, like your operating system, I couldn't agree more. Because if your nervous system and your thoughts and beliefs are all based on past crappy experiences that have been holding you back, then of course that is what you're going to continue to project and create into your future, unless you finally clear and shift some of that stuff. And she teaches you exactly how to do that in your sleep. And like, speaking of efficiency, isn't this like the most efficient way to manifest your dream life? I mean, you're going to do it anyway. You may as well make your sleep useful, right? So honestly, I just really encourage you as your action step this week to connect with Lou, get on her priority list, and take the first step to quantum leap in your sleep, because that is in effect what you received today. That was your first entry point into how to connect with the 5D realms, your higher self, your ancestors, your guides, the bigger picture beyond any one of ours wildest expectations or realizations, so you can finally live the life of your wildest dreams. And the best part is you get to manifest it while you're in dream time as well. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I'll see you next week. Bye for now. If you're a high performer or entrepreneur who's got big dreams and you've developed strategies to get you closer to those dreams, but you feel like there are also parts of you self-sabotaging your success, I built something just for you. It is my signature Achievement Archetypes quiz that is absolutely free, takes less than 2 minutes, and it will give you instant feedback as to where your Achilles heel is. That is your natural self-sabotaging behavior when it comes to productivity, planning, efficiency, and organization. And it gives you your next right step and the solution you didn't know you needed. You'll find the link in the show notes just below. Make sure you find your achievement archetype and let me know what it is. As a fellow achiever, I will be the first to put my hand up that I have now mastered my Achilles heel, and I can't wait for you to do the same. The views and opinions expressed by guests on Resonance are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of me, Viktoria Levenberg, Live in Health, or anyone working within the Live in Health brand. This space welcomes a diversity of ideas, experiences, and stories, and part of Resonance is learning to take what aligns and gently leaving the rest. Also, while I am a national board certified health and wellness coach and deeply passionate about well-being, this podcast is intended for educational and inspirational purposes only. Resonance does not substitute personalized medical, psychological, or therapeutic advice. Always seek guidance from qualified professionals for any physical, emotional, or mental health concerns.